Sam Darnold era with the New York Jets is over. As always, if we're talking Jets, Mike Matalavich is to my right. He's like my inside beat reporter on the Take Sports podcast. So happy to have you back again to talk some New York Jets. But bittersweet day, I think, the way that we talk about Sam and talked about him being a successful quarterback for this team. Super excited when they traded up for him 3 years ago. Thought this was going to be the guy. They failed him. They just didn't put enough pieces around him. And I'm really happy for him to get a new start in Carolina. I know you have some similar thoughts about Sam, and just we're hoping for him to be a successful quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think he will be. I 100% believe he's going to find success somewhere. Maybe not fully in Carolina, because I think there's going to be some competition with Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think the job's as fully guaranteed as it seems right now. But this was a relationship, I think, that had a lot of optimism around it 3 years ago. I think the Jets fans really rallied around him and wanted to see him succeed. And it's one thing when you see something like Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago where you surround him with weapons and it doesn't work out. You see some flashes and it doesn't work out. But with Sam, we never really gave him an opportunity. It's always going to be a what could have been. And to me, that's the most upsetting factor is the fact that he's probably going to go somewhere else and be very successful, and that if the Jets had Joe Douglas from the start of Sam's career, I think we're talking about Sam Darnold in a completely different light, a la Josh Allen.
I couldn't agree more. And just how you're putting it, when it comes to pieces, here's the deal. Here are the facts. This dude was the worst statistical quarterback in the 3 years that he was the starting quarterback for the Jets. It sucked because he was not healthy during his time here. The mono, shoulder injury. Then he came back towards the end 2 years ago, and they won 6-7. They ended up going 7-9 that season, and you thought, all right, that's some good promise. And I think it even shows you even more that with the quarterback position, not only do the Jets need to pick correctly here at number 2, whether it be, we think it's going to be Zach Wilson out of BYU, or if it's Fields, or if it's Mac Jones, or Trey Lance, whatever it may be. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence drops down to 2, whatever. They need to have a good backup quarterback as well. Because their backup quarterback play when Sam was hurt was absolutely fucking atrocious. Like, terrible. I don't even think they got one win while he was not under center.
No, and the offense, and everyone was like, oh, look, Joe Flacco is going to show you how a real quarterback takes over this offense.
He sucked.
It was horrible. It was so abysmal. And that it's just the fact that you look at a talented quarterback and you see it and you go, he's got the talent, he's got the attitude, he's a company man, he always was for the Jets. And then no matter what the situation he was put in, I don't think anyone could have succeeded. I don't think Baker Mayfield could have succeeded. I don't think Josh Allen could have succeeded. Lamar Jackson, even Patrick Mahomes, who came into the Jets situation, I don't think would have succeeded. So it's really upsetting to see a wide receiver that we wanted to keep, a quarterback we wanted to have it work out with, the backup quarterback who played well that we traded away, and then the coach that we should have hired, all down there in Carolina, putting together a team that looks like they're going to be pretty damn competitive.
100% competitive. I mean, even last season, they lost a ton of close games. Without McCaffrey, and even with McCaffrey, they were 0-3. They didn't win a game with McCaffrey. So you're telling me that a perennial MVP type player at running back, I really think, I mean, as good as running backs are, I think it's the most overrated position in football when it comes to when it comes to paying the guys. So the fact that you still have McCaffrey, you have Robbie Anderson, you have Sam Darnold now, you have DJ Moore. I think this offense could be pretty good. And like I said, I think Matt Rule was a guy that really liked Darnold when they interviewed him for the Jet coaching job. And I think even after one season, the whole Teddy Bridgewater, the honeymoon, the marriage, it's not working out. And they're allowing him to explore trades. And he has 2 years, like $35 million left on the deal, 10 of it guaranteed. They're picking up Sam's 5th-year option, so they're bringing Darnold in for at least 2 years. They're gonna pay him that $19 million, or I think that's what it is for the 5th-year option, and I think they're gonna roll with him. I really think that they're gonna go in whether it be competition style, but I think they're going in with the idea that Darnold will be our starting quarterback come week 1.
Yeah, I think right now the draft could change everything. They still hold that number 8 pick, so a QB could still be in the cards depending on how things turn out. But again, I do think Sam would likely be their starter, mainly because what would that say about Matt Rule and Joe Brady? Just think about that as what of an emphatic statement on the league after last year where they displayed some really great offensive numbers to take a guy that is, for lack of a better term, a reclamation project and try and turn him into, a winning quarterback that could compete in a pretty competitive division down there.
I mean, you got the Super Bowl, you got the Super Bowl champs, you got the Saints, who are probably still going to be a pretty competitive team without Drew Brees. I think Winston and Hill, even at quarterback, I think they're looking to draft a quarterback too. The Saints,
Yeah.
and again, that division is still always kicking each other in the teeth.
Yeah, and I think the questions, especially with the Saints, and I believe it's the Falcons as well down there.
They're looking to shop that pick too.
Exactly.
That they got
So
at 7.
The questions around those teams, just to me, proves that this is a great time to take a risk on a guy like Sam Darnold. This isn't 3 years ago when you're facing, Drew Brees with the Saints and Matt Ryan as an MVP. And I think the 2 questions in Atlanta and in New Orleans give Carolina the 2 years they need to see if this can work out. I don't think if this is 2 years in the future when the Saints figure it out and hopefully the Falcons will figure it out, you don't make this move because you have to win in this division. But right now, with the questions surrounding all the teams, this is a move that could really, really pay off well for Carolina in the next, in the immediate future.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think my immediate reaction was, all right, Darnold gets reunited with Robbie Anderson. Anderson had a great season last year. With Teddy, he actually looked like he was the number 1, and DJ Moore was getting number 2 looks. Mm-hmm. Away from the Panthers, though, as Jet fans, the deal itself, they got a 6th rounder for this year, a 2nd, and a 4th for 2022. They had no leverage, and they still got 3 picks, and they still got a 2nd rounder. I think Douglas, for the direction he wanted to go, I think this was a great move. You got more draft capital. You got a 2nd rounder. You traded 3 2nd rounders to move up from the Colts 3, right? It was 3. You didn't give a 1st rounder.
Yes.
I know Douglas had to make 1 or 2 moves. It was, we're keeping Sam, and we're going to use the 2nd pick for a high-end offensive weapon, whether it been Sewell for the line, whether it been a receiver. If you regarded Kyle Pitts very high at the tight end position for number 2 pick, or you maybe were to trade that pick down, or you traded Darnold at a good deal. That's what he did, and now you draft a quarterback. For Douglas, for Saleh, they had to decide, are we rolling with Darnold or are we resetting? And they're resetting. They're going to now, instead of keeping Darnold and going the what if of like a Wilson or a young guy, they're going in, all right, we're picking our guy and I'm winning or I'm losing with my guy. At least there's no, what if we got rid of Darnold and we picked the guy that we really liked on the board, having that number 2 pick. And Douglas said, all right, we wouldn't have traded Sam if we didn't have the number 2. And you'd think if they didn't have a top 5 pick, or maybe even the 3rd, up to them. The fact that they can pick over any quarterback outside of the Jags with Lawrence tells you something. And they get the pick of they get their pick out of the crop of quarterbacks at number 2. It was a decision that they had to decide on before the draft. We were talking about it off air before. Overall, it's the move you had to. Jet fans hate to hear. You had to click the reset button. You bring in a new head coach. You bring in a GM that finally has brought in his guys, and you're gonna pick your quarterback. And they have to put talent and pieces around Wilson, or else we're gonna rinse, wash, repeat. It's the same shit. You know?
And I think one thing I really want to highlight with this move is the timing of it. Because a lot of people were predicting Sam Darnold gets moved a week before the draft, the night of the draft, the day after the 1st round, when you already have that quarterback in hand. I love this timing because it not only shows the knowledge of Joe Douglas when it comes to the locker room that he's building, he understands that Sam is a well-liked guy, and this is a move that they're going to need time for the locker room to come to terms with. We already saw some guys who weren't too happy with it. Marcus May, LaMichael Pirine and Mekhi Becton all put out tweets saying, go be great, please go be you.
Yeah.
And if those came out on draft night, it doesn't look good for us, but instead we get it out of the way now. It makes the Jets look 150% committed to the quarterback they're going to be taking because it's a month before the draft and they're already locked in. It just shows that the Jets are over the drama. There's going to be no talk about them leading up to the draft. The draft starts at 3, and the Jets are just going to be focused on the future. It's just, there's going to be no whispers about it, no conversations about it, no what-ifs. This is what happened. Everybody get used to it because on the first night of the draft with that second pick, we all know what's going to happen.
It's true. And when I feel like the last thing that we were thinking about was, do you throw, that your top, your number 2 overall pick, like they did with Sam at the number 3 overall pick, do you throw him right into the fire? Or do you bring in, and we were saying earlier, you need a competent backup quarterback. I think, and there's been talks about it, I think bringing in a guy like Alex Smith makes so much sense. Because if you decide to start Alex Smith, he can win you games. I think he could win you games. And if you don't feel like you have enough pieces that you can throw Zach Wilson right into it this season, and he starts off, losing his first 3 games, you actually have a competent quarterback under center to help you through games. And, dude, Alex Smith, when it came to letting go to Kaepernick, letting go to Mahomes, he's always been a winner. Always been a winner. So I think bringing Alex Smith to the Jets would be a perfect move for them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think having that fallback safety net would be ideal so we don't get another Sam Darnold.
100%.